إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وبعد خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الحدي حدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. We begin by praising Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, and we ask for His forgiveness. And we seek refuge with Allah from the evil of ourselves and from the evil consequence of our evil actions. Whomsoever Allah guides, there is none to misguide, and whomsoever Allah leaves to go astray, there is none to guide. And I testify and bear witness that Allah alone is worthy of worship and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the servant of Allah and His messenger. After that, the best speech is the book of Allah, and the best way, the best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the worst of all the affairs are those matters that have been newly introduced into the religion, and every matter that is newly introduced into the religion of Islam is an innovation, and all of those religious innovations are misguidance, and all misguidance is going astray, and all going astray is in the fire. My brothers and sisters in Islam, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon you. Today there is going to be one dominant theme, and the theme, as you can see, is peace. Peace to humanity. Peace, vision of Islam. Really, peace. Why do we want peace? Why? What's so good about peace? Everybody talks about peace. Tony Blair talks about peace. George Bush talks about peace. We're fighting for peace. We're blowing for peace. We're doing this for peace. We want peace. Everyone wants peace. You know, you don't have to question for a minute that peace is a good thing, because we know that that's what we want. And if your religion's any good, your religion is going to preach peace and teach peace. Yeah? Okay. Why do human beings want peace? Why? Tell me. Can anyone? I want you to tell me personally why you want peace. Why do you want peace and not war? Why do you want peace and not something other than peace? So can you give me a few ideas? Help me along. What's so good about peace? I'm asking you this. I tell you something amazing. My dad, he went to Egypt. In fact, my dad lived in Egypt for 10 years. And he was a merchant banker there. And recently he went back to make a visit to a school that he opened there. And he gave a lecture there to young Egyptian boys. And the amazing thing he gave a lecture about, I couldn't figure this out exactly what my dad was going on about. He gave a lecture not about peace, but about war. And in fact, he talked about how much fun war was. And yes, he said, you're a young man and you will enjoy fighting. My father fought in the Second World War. And he loved it. And my dad, believe me, is not a bad man. If you meet my dad, you will say, how come he's not Muslim? He's such a nice guy. So many people said that. But seriously, some people actually enjoy fighting. They love it. So tell me, please, what is so good about peace? Why do we want peace? Can anyone tell me? To live in harmony. To live in harmony? Why do you want to live in harmony? Why? You know the guy, he's annoying you, poof, why don't you just bash him up? Why you want to live in harmony? What for? Why don't you just fight all day? I mean, I look at my kids, Abdullah and Bilal, all they do is fight, 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 fight. They seem to enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. I know why I want peace. Why do you want peace? Seriously. I took some notes. I've got some ideas myself why I think people want peace. But I want to hear from you. Huh? Okay, that's a good start. We need peace to live. Yeah, we need peace to live. Why? What's the opposite of peace? Peace means war. Yes? And when there is war, you feel insecure. You feel that any minute some bomb may blow up your house. You can't get the food you like. You can't do your job. Nothing feels happy. You feel disturbed. You feel your life is going to be lost. You feel your children are in danger. You feel your family is in danger. You don't know what's happening to your auntie and your uncle and mummy and daddy and wherever they are, because the whole world is in confusion. And people don't like that. They don't like confusion. They don't like this disruption. They don't like this mad state of affairs. Mostly, generally, human beings like to, as he said, live. Live, get on with their life. That's what it is. We like to get on with our life with as little hassle as possible, with as much ease as possible. Is that generally true? Yeah? Yes. So that's why we like peace. We don't like war, we like peace. We don't like the idea I have to go out and fight and die, and maybe I won't see my wife again and my family again. This is something frightening. It's something unnerving. Human beings generally, not all of them actually, history of the human being, if you examine the history of the human being, you will think it is not a history of peace, but it is a history of war. In fact, all the human beings seem to be doing most of the time is fighting and killing one another. But when we talk about peace as the absence of war, I think we are missing the point. Because most people, when they say peace, they think peace means no war. Yes? That's what they imagine. Peace means no war. But in my opinion, this is a very, very shallow and small understanding of what is peace. In fact, I don't really believe this is the correct understanding of what is peace at all. And in fact, even the people who talk about peace the most, they don't even believe that. Because as I began by saying, George Bush talks about peace as he's going to war. Yes? Because he's going to war for peace. We can laugh, but actually, as a concept, it's not strange to the human being that we fight for peace, that we have war so we can live in peace. This is not a strange concept for the human being. So therefore, peace does not mean the absence of war. It doesn't mean that. Peace is something we feel inside. Peace is something we feel inside. It's a state of happiness. It's a state of joy. It's a state of calm, tranquility, serenity. We don't feel worried. We don't feel depressed. We don't feel sad. We feel at peace. So true peace is something that is inside the human being. It is not something necessarily outside. So this is in fact the true peace. The true peace is the peace that is inside the human being. And everything else in fact is a type of false peace. Because we witness many societies that claim to be at peace. If you listen and study the propaganda and the brainwashing of the West, one of the things they claim all the time is, look, liberal democracy has brought peace to our nations for 40 years or 50 years or 60 years, since actually the Second World War, the most horrible conflict human beings have ever seen, okay? But let's leave that out, yeah? If you listen to the propaganda of the West, one of the things they say is, look, Germany and France and England and America and Canada and Australia, they are at peace. By that they mean they are not fighting each other. But is this really true? It's true they are not at war. It's true that these countries are not dropping bombs on each other right now anyway. But let's examine something else. Let's look at their societies. Let's look at America. The crime rate, violent crime, rape, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, kids shooting each other in schools, kids knifing each other in the streets, gang warfare. Washington, D.C. is called the murder capital of the world. Of the world. Not of America, of the world. A woman is raped in America. One woman, I think, is raped every 3 minutes in Canada. Or is it 3 women every 1 minute? One or the other. Whichever one it is, it's disgusting. In England, women, they interviewed women and they found that 80% of women did not feel safe to travel on the underground, the public transport system at night. In England, we are afraid to let our children go and play outside because there are pedophiles, because we're hearing about people who are kidnapping children and sexually molesting them and murdering them in the most horrific way. And I want to ask you a question. Can we really say that is peace? No, this is not peace. We find people are depressed. People are depressed. They are taking drugs like Valium, drugs because they are clinically depressed. They are so depressed they need to take drugs to make themselves feel more happy. They drink alcohol and they take ecstasy and so many drugs and intoxicants. Does this sound like people who are at peace? No. In fact, you see, the promise of peace is a very narrow one. It's a very narrow concept, and this in fact is something that we have fallen into the trap of thinking the same thing, and we shouldn't do this. My contention tonight, and what I want to try and show tonight, is that Islam brings peace, true peace. The true peace of the soul, the peace and tranquility that is in the heart and the soul of the individual. And this is the true peace. And in fact, I will say, without this peace of soul, without this peace of mind, without this tranquility inside the human being, there will never ever be true peace on this earth. Never. And I will say more than this, that Islam is the only way to establish true peace. There is no other religion, there is no other way of life that is able to give the human being true peace and true happiness. Now, what are my reasons for that? How practically does Islam give us this peace? How practically does Islam give us this peace? The first and the most important thing that I want to touch upon is what the Muslim believes. What does the Muslim believe? The Muslim has a belief that is so sensible, that is so rational, that makes so much sense, that there will never be a confusion in the mind of the Muslim between what his or her religion teaches in terms of what we believe and the intelligence. You will find most other religions and most other philosophies, they do not make much sense. In fact, many religions rely on the fact that, or the idea that, many religions rely on the idea that religion isn't supposed to make any sense. Religion is supposed to be nonsense. It's superstition. It's spiritual. It's something other than this world. So how can you subject it to your intellect? In fact, sometimes they will say, the more nonsense it is, the more true it must be. Yes, I have heard this said. One famous writer, I don't know if you've heard of him, his name is Graham Greene. He is a very famous writer anyway. If you study English literature, maybe you will study Graham Greene. And he is also famous because he converted from one part of Christianity to another part of Christianity. I don't want to mention which one. The reason he said, why did he convert to this other Christian? He said, because it doesn't make any sense. The reason I became this type of Christian is because it doesn't make any sense. And the more mysterious it is, and the more nonsensical it is, the more I think it must be a true religion. This is his idea of religion. Religion is supposed to be confusing. But why? And if your religion, which is the foundation of your whole life, what you believe is the foundation on which your whole life is built. If your foundation is confusing, if your mind is confused about that, how can you ever have peace? How can you ever have happiness? Because always you will be saying, wait a minute, but that doesn't make any sense. But this is confusing, and you will never feel happy. But how about the teaching of Islam? Islam gives the most rational and acceptable explanation in order to understand this world and this universe in which we live. We look at the universe, we look at our world, we look at ourselves, and we see that this universe and this world and our own selves operates according to amazing laws. The most intricate and complicated and beautiful systems. The human brain is infinitely more complex and has a huge and really incredible, greater computing capacity than the world's fastest supercomputer. There are more connections in our brain than there are atoms in the universe. This is just a human brain. We look at the stars, the alternation of the night and the day. We look at our eyes, our liver, our heart, our kidneys. We look at the symbiotic relationship between the creatures, and not only the creatures, but the creatures, the animals, the insects, and even the sun and the air, and we find everything working according to a system. Now, human beings, our experience tells us that when we see the simplest thing, a pen, we know someone made this pen. Do you have any doubt that someone made this pen? Have any doubt? How about my mobile phone? Did someone make this? I think you're more sure that someone made the mobile phone than the pen, yes? What is my mobile phone made of? Do you know what it's made of? Essentially two things, sand and oil. Yes. The silicon chip, yeah? Is from what? Sand. And plastic comes from oil. And I happen to have a case here made of leather. Okay? So let's say a dead animal. So in my mobile phone here, I've got sand, oil, and a bit of a dead animal. Okay? Which place in this earth has lots of sand and oil? Name me a place. Okay, Saudi Arabia. Lots of oil and lots of sand. No, this was not made by anybody. I was walking along one day in the desert of the Saudi Arabia, and I found this mobile phone sitting there, and it's a product of chance and coincidence. The sun was shining, the oil was spewing, there was maybe a volcanic explosion, the lightning hit it, and after millions and millions of years, this mobile phone formed itself just by coincidence out of the sand and oil. You believe that? You believe it? Does that make any sense? Is that even a fairy story? It's not even you couldn't even make a fairy story out of that. It's so stupid. Yet people want to tell us that this universe, that you and me, that the animals and the trees and the sky and the moon and the stars and the sun, they are a product of coincidence. Yet they are much more complicated than even this mobile phone. So how can a human being ever feel at peace when they have such a stupid, ridiculous belief? How? Because in the back of their mind they will always know that this is impossible, that they are fooling themselves, that this is so unlikely and so improbable. But they have staked their whole life on it, and they have built their whole existence on the idea that there's no God, this is just a product of chance and coincidence. When I die, the worms will eat me, the dust will eat me, that's it. How can anyone have peace thinking something like that? It doesn't make any sense. But it does make sense that when we look at this amazing universe, to think that and to understand that there must be something that is so wise and so powerful and so intelligent that has created this universe.